Welcome to Pop-O-Holics, the show about hot takes hotter than hot, tasty pancakes. You've reached a weekly upload. Welcome. So happy to have you. I'm your host, Christian Cady, and I'm joined, as always, by my two third and fourth best friends.
Chris Conkling.
And Brian Dupree. We'll see if those numbers change throughout the course of this episode.
It's up to us to figure out who ranks where, Brian.
It's a battle, and I'm just saying I'm ready to fight for it.
As am I.
Well, we're going to see. What are you watching right now? Well, hey, what's going on, YouTubers and podcast listeners? This is a weekly upload for YouTube watchers. This is where we do a little bit of the weekly upload. We do a little bit of Brian's Wacky News Corner. And then exclusively for podcast listeners, we do our What We've Been Consuming. Got a lot of great things. Me and Chris saw Venom, Let There Be Carnage. So we did. Brian just got back from a trip from LA that we're going to hear all about, which is exciting. And we got some good news for you. And then we have a community feedback section. So, Brian's back on the pod. Thank God. This thing was going way off the rails. I don't know if you listened to the episodes, Brian.
You guys both held it down. I sincerely enjoyed both episodes. They were super tight, hilarious, and insightful, I must say. Some of the stuff about Quantum of Solace that you were talking about, Chris, it was really good context going in.
Thanks.
And created stark differences going into Skyfall, which we'll get into on Wednesday.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it's James Bond month here at the Pop-O-Holics. So if you want to listen to the main topic episodes, we are talking all James Bond. We're recapping the Daniel Craig series. So we got the audio versions on YouTube and your podcast feed. So follow that link down in the show notes. Subscribe. And we're up to like 50 subscribers or something crazy. It's
58 as of this recording.
Nuts. Thank you so much. Much appreciated.
Off, yeah.
Yes. Thank you to everyone who's already subscribed. We're trying to make our way to that 100 so we can customize our URL and make sure that nobody's searching for really gross things on YouTube when they're trying to find us.
Unless
so
they
help
want
us
to.
reach 100 subscribers.
If you like pimple popping as well, we don't want to neglect you as audience. You can search for both.
No judgment here. We don't cover that type of content. So
do I smell maybe some cross promotion? Got to get some of those. We got to find out who the movers and shakers in the pimple popping, universe and fan section are. Get at us, pop at us, other Pop-O-Holics in the gross way. Which
we're gonna get Dr. Pimple Popper on at some point to talk about, Osmosis Jones, just famous pimple popping scenes.
Perfect.
Where did you go to school, Dr. Popper, Dr. Hot Popper?
I imagine she's a dermatologist. I haven't seen the show.
I'll have to check in on that. Brian, you went to LA very quickly because we got a lot of stuff to get to, but I want to hear about your trip. How was that? What all did you get up to?
My goodness. Coming from Florida, it was like a whole different world out there, not only because of just how it is normally, but obviously with COVID precautions, just completely different than how we're handling it here. But aside from that, not fun stuff, it was absolutely incredible. I mean, driving out there took some getting used to. They drive a little bit like mad people, and you kind of just have to cut people off.
They've got places to be, Brian, and traffic is awful.
Apparently.
So.
I got nearly to my breaking point the first day when we had to park for one of the screenings that I'll be talking about. Ended up parking at the Hollywood Bowl parking lot, and I found out what stacked parking is, which is hellish. If you guys haven't heard of it, it's basically everyone parked as close as you can to each other, and you can't leave until everyone else around you leaves. So it ended up working out time wise, but yes, driving out there was not fun. But we got to see the Warner Brothers studio, the Universal Studio tour, saw a bunch of awesome screenings, just did the whole Hollywood thing, the Walk of Stars, the Chinese Theater. I got to see an early showing of No Time to Die, which I'm not going to get into today because we're going to cover it later in the month, at the Chinese Theater. It was just otherworldly. It's still settling in. I spent a night in Joshua Tree and got to see the Milky Way, just sitting under the stars. Had never seen the Milky Way like that. A ton of shooting stars, more than I can really talk about here, but it was an amazing and needed trip, I must say.
That sounds wonderful, dude.
You got a front row seat to all those Starlink satellites. You got to see all them flying through the air.
Luckily, it did not disturb our visions. I'm not sure if satellites fly over that part of the sky or not, because I didn't notice any, but it was amazing.
I'll tell you, some of those shooting stars, probably Starlink satellites. So without further ado,
right.
That's very awesome. I'm very jealous. Sounds like a very cool trip. I was in California last year, as the loyalist of listeners will know. I was working out there for like 6 months.
Not quite the same experience.
Not quite the same experience because everything stopped. Everything stopped, and I was supposed to go to LA and have my little tour. So definitely that has been postponed. But great to live vicariously through you. Send us lots of cool pictures of like the Warner Brothers lot and stuff. Looked like a ton of fun. Can't wait to hear more about it as we continue through this episode to hear your screening experience. But let's delay no further so we can get to that, and let's start the way we do. Now that Brian's back, and that's with Brian's Wacky News Corner.
Welcome back, everyone. I just want to thank Christian for holding it down last week for me. He did a great job going through the Wacky News Corner.
It was a real team effort, Chris and I. I would say I hardly held it down. I'd be like, Brian wrote here something about Doctor Who. Chris, take it away.
Dude, I felt so bad when we were going over what's coming out last week. When we got to Lamb, Christian and I were just like, I don't know what this is. And then after the fact, I saw a trailer for Lamb, and I was like, oh, fuck, I really wish we had talked about that.
It looks
new
terrifying.
Insane A24 movie, yeah. That's out now. So I'm going to be seeing that hopefully tomorrow, if all goes well. But so moving into some news this week. Last week, as of this release, a spin-off of WandaVision starring Kathryn Hahn as Agatha Harkness has been announced, with Jack Schaefer coming on as writer and executive producer as well, who was held similar roles on WandaVision. So I think Agatha Harkness was kind of a standout role in terms of supporting characters throughout WandaVision. Kathryn Hahn it was many people's introduction to her, but she's done a lot of really great supporting work. So I'm really happy to see her getting a starring role. I think it's something that she can definitely hold the show together with her range as an actress. And how do you guys feel about an Agatha Harkness spinoff from WandaVision?
I think it's no surprise that I'm all about that. You know, good for Kathryn Hahn, man. A couple of weeks ago, we were talking about the Comeback Girl, the new Joan Rivers series that she's getting.
Yep.
Now the series isn't confirmed. It's kind of like just being workshopped right now, so we don't know with any certainty that it is actually going to come to fruition. And not much else is known about the series other than the fact that it would be centered around Kathryn Hahn's character, Agatha Harkness. But she was such a great character in WandaVision, and I'm so interested in the supernatural aspects of the MCU that I would love to see a show like this on Disney+. And I'm very interested to see like what type of narrative they would take, what type of narrative path they would take. Would this be a prequel? Would it be something set after WandaVision? There's really so much to explore with her character because how long-lived she is. So
right.
This would be a really cool show. Christian, how do you feel about it?
I mean, listen, if they greenlight it and do it, it'll probably be great. I have no interest in it, but I'm sure they've been getting better and better at the show format. They've really found their footing, especially with Loki. So, there's nothing they can't do. It does seem very thin as far as whether or not this is going to happen, actually. But yeah, it'd be cool. It'd be a cool opportunity for Kathryn Hahn. Whatever. I'm like, when does it end? When does the thing stop becoming more things? Like in the Agatha Harkness show, is there going to be a side character named Bobo, and Bobo gets a spinoff, and then in Bobo's side project, Bobo's got the character
to
called.
Its credit, these are long-established characters who have history in the MCU outside of how they've been introduced in the shows, right? So there's plenty to pull from here.
Yeah, no, listen, Bobo is a very important character if you actually read. He had his own run.
Widely beloved Bobo, yes.
Yeah, did you ever read Philip K. Dick's run on Bobo? No, you probably haven't because you're not a real nerd. So there's a lot of source material there to pull from, and someone just farted at Marvel Studios. That's the only thing we have to go off on is a fart that sounded like the word Bobo, but we're pretty sure they're spinning a whole.
I was gonna say the fart sounded like Agatha Harkness,
and it had a little tail.
Picked it up his nose.
Yeah, so who the fuck knows is gonna happen, but it sounds like it'd be fine. Yeah, sure. I'm like,
I will say
it's probably gonna be great. Listen,
according to Variety, this is from sources. So
yes, they have their sources.
As
Someone
reported
has
by
spoken to them about this.
And the author of this article was journalist. So good. I think we can confirm probably kind of maybe true.
That's locked in. So yeah, Kathryn Hahn may be starring in a new WandaVision spinoff about Agatha Harkness.
Or maybe not.
Something. Moving on to something that is a bit more confirmed. A new spinoff of That 70s Show called That 90s Show has been announced at Netflix. So this has Kurtwood Smith and Deborah Jo Rupp reprising their roles as Red and Kitty Foreman from the original run. And it's starring the daughter of Eric and Donna from the original series, but their characters are not yet confirmed to be involved in this. I would hope that they would at least do some minor roles, cameos at a minimum, but it's been a long time, so who knows if they'll be available or willing to come back to that universe.
Yeah, I don't know if Topher Grace would ever come back to that franchise, but who's to say?
Seems unlikely, but a lot of time has passed. So water under the bridge, maybe. We'll definitely see about that. They've tried something like this in the past, did one season of That 80s Show, which I didn't watch, but because it only ran for one season, I imagine it didn't do spectacularly. We are children of the 90s. This may be up our alley. I definitely enjoyed That 70s Show back in middle school, early high school time frame. How do you feel about coming back to this? Is this something that you would potentially take a chance on?
I would. I loved That 70s Show when it was airing on television. It was one of my favorite sitcoms at that time. When That 80s Show rolled around, starring Glenn Howerton, by the way, like I think even before Always Sunny, which is kind of crazy. I watched the first couple episodes and I was like, it just doesn't have the same vibe, you know? So I can see why for That 90s Show they're kind of going back to the core cast of characters from That 70s Show.
And those two iconic roles as the parents in that show.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, you know, their dynamic is really fun in That 70s Show. It'd be interesting to see what they're like as grandparents, considering how hard they were on Eric in That 70s Show. Grandparents tend to interact with grandchildren a little differently than they interact with their children. So I think that could be a really funny dynamic. I would check it out. I don't have high hopes for the quality of the show, but it is Netflix. You know, it's no longer under Fox. So we'll see. We'll see what happens when the show finally airs. Christian, how do you feel about this?
I think the real failing of That 80s Show was really, you know, when they did the circle thing in That 70s Show, they're all smoking pot. I think it was just a little extreme to have, a bunch of teenagers in the 80s going around and they were all doing bumps of cocaine. And that just made it was less chill.
The camera would have to pan too fast.
Yeah, right. The camera was like all erratic and all over the place, and it just was kind of nauseating. So if they can really capture the vibe of, what the hell were people doing in the 90s? I don't know, paint chips? What the hell? Can't remember what we got up to. I don't know if it's because I grew up in the 90s, I'll get it. I think it's wrote with being terrible, right? Because it just.
I don't think that's enough. That's not enough to make the show great.
Be a bunch of people saying dude and whatever, man, I'm gonna go on my skateboard. I just
they'll have a grunge kid in the group probably.
Yeah, it all sounds terrible. Everything that's coming to my head is not I want to see that. And Chris, I was also a fan of That 70s Show. You were, so was Brian. One of my best friends in college, big fan of That 70s Show. None of us grew up in the 70s, so no. I don't think that was the je ne sais quoi of that show. It was a great cast of characters, and half of which, a lot of them went on to great success. So I think that's really the core, right? Good characters and fun writing. And I really don't want them to do the sitcom format, because I don't know if you've tried to watch a sitcom in the past 20 years, but it's not good. We talked about sitcoms in the WandaVision episode, harkening back to our previous conversation, and really the last ones that we could bear were How I Met Your Mother and Friends and all this other stuff, and that was late 90s, early 2000s.
A lot of sitcoms have also moved away from the laugh track format, which
smartly.
That 70s Show wasn't it? Didn't they have a laugh track? I can't remember.
Indeed, they did.
I think so.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So the question of whether or not they would bring back that format to that 90s show is also kind of in flux here, because I don't know. We've moved past the laugh track as a culture, I think, like Christian was saying. So Who's to say?
I don't know. You say that, and then like 2.5 Men was giant, and a lot
Ryan,
of
you
the
know
Chuck
that it's
Lorre
been like
shows.
15 years since 2.5
Big
Men
Bang Theory is really the
concluded.
last.
Big Bang Theory still.
Okay, Big Bang Theory. You got me there. All right.
Yeah. I just want to put $20 on the first episode having a joke about like technology not getting any better. Like a Game Boy on the go, Nintendo on the go, can't get any better than this, and we're all like, haha, does.
You just wait.
Yeah. No, there's nothing about this that sounds interesting. It's going to be unless they really shake it up, it's got a lot of new talent they're bringing in, then it's really surprising. Like, it's going to take a big old dump ski. It'll get 2 seasons because Netflix will give it 2 seasons.
For that 90s show. My God.
Well, maybe they should do something else.
Well, I think to your point about us liking that 70s show, not having lived through the 70s, maybe this will find its audience with the middle school, high school crowd who sees the 90s, this strange time of technological advancement that seems like the Ice Age to people these days.
You're totally right, Brian. You know what kids love? They love laugh tracks, Mr. Foreman. Like, they love
talking
all
about
that.
how he's going to put his foot in somebody's ass, you know?
Yeah, they're like,
It's
foots
all
and
very
asses.
politically correct and acceptable in the year 2020.
Yeah, we're already putting our feet in each other's asses, and we love it and celebrate it.
Consensually.
Of course. Well, of course. Yeah. That's the line reading.
As you can tell, we're all very excited. We're all very excited about that 90s show.
It's the kids going, Mr. Foreman, please put your foot in my ass. It's an invitation for the foot and ass play. No, I see what you're saying. And most importantly, vertical aspect ratio.
I'm glad we brought it back.
It takes place in the 90s, so it's not going to be in the vertical aspect ratio. Now, that 2010 show? That 2020 show? Oh, God, I don't want to see that show. Maybe that's broadcast in a vertical aspect ratio, but not in the 90s.
Dropping out on our screens. The same old thing with a different aspect ratio.
So I will say, leaving off on this, the original creators of the show, Bonnie and Terry Turner, are coming back to executive produce this, and Greg Metler, who worked on the original as well, is going to serve as the showrunner. So
it gives me
has
some
potential.
high hopes.
Yeah, so that's going to be 10 episodes of that 90s show on Netflix at some point.
It's going to be great.
Right. It might be okay. Well, time will tell.
That 90s show, it might be okay.
That's a pull quote right there for the ages.
The Pop-O-Holics say that 90s show might be okay.
We're hedging our bets here. Last piece of news proper. We talked about Christopher Nolan recently selling off his latest project, or auctioning off his latest project to Universal, and he has now cast the lead that's going to be playing J. Robert Oppenheimer, and Cillian Murphy is going to be filling that role, which is really exciting for me. Cillian Murphy is someone who has been in a lot of Nolan movies, in the Dark Knight trilogy, as well as more recently in Dunkirk. And he's an actor who every time I see him, he's always great. But I haven't seen him in a leading role in a long time. I think he had like a heyday back in the 2000s. But I'm really excited to see him in a leading role here as Oppenheimer. And we also got a release date for this as well of July 21st, 2023. So lastly, before I let you guys talk about how you feel about Cillian Murphy, Christopher Nolan did lock in a 100-day theatrical release window.
That SOB.
I know he got it done. But yeah, so he locked in 100 days of only theatrical before VOD. And yeah,
good for him.
Cillian Murphy is Oppenheimer. How do you guys feel about this? Are you doing a Cillian Murphy right now, Christian?
He's just got the biggest, most beautiful eyes ever. It's like, you're handsome, but also spooky. I love Cillian Murphy. He's a great actor. Almost played Batman. Did screen test as Bruce Wayne, and then 250-pound Christian Bale came and like, I could do that better, or whatever he said, But yeah, no, this is super exciting. He's great in Dunkirk. I think he's a wonderful actor, so this is really cool.
Yeah, I really echo both of your sentiments as well. I loved him in everything that I've seen him in. He's worked with Christopher Nolan multiple times, so they have a rapport going. I think this is going to be a great experience for him, and I'm excited to see the movie.
Yeah, I have I have a source here. A critic says that's a great idea.
We almost got here, folks.
We almost got a spit take on the Pop-O-Holics just
That was
now.
almost a live spit take, yes. So moving into some stuff that's coming out this week. Starting on the TV front, we have a Chucky television series that is coming to Syfy and USA this Tuesday. So this is actually,
I think, the first. This is the first. This is coming up to show you how new media has just dominated everything. I'm going to say in our history of doing weekly uploads, which, to be fair, has not been since that 90s time. It's only been for about 2 years. I have never heard you utter the words coming out on Syfy/USA. Anyway, sorry. I just wanted to note this event.
I tend to de-emphasize the cable stuff just because we don't tend to be as interested, and I imagine our audience these days
season 4 returning to D&D. Yeah. Anyway, I just wanted to note that this is the first time I've heard Syfy/USA. I didn't know they were the same entity. Anyway, Brian, please. I just wanted to note that.
I don't think they are the same entity, but this is a strange time. So, yeah. It's a collaboration.
You know what I think's the best choice for this new Chucky show? Going to 2 different cable networks instead of going to a cable network and a streaming service. I think that's really going to get the kids to watch the show.
So the weirdest part of this, the original creator, Don Mancini, is involved with this. The original voice of Chucky with Brad Dourif is in this. And this is an actual sequel to the 7th film, Cult of Chucky.
That's cool.
So they're moving into TV to tell this continuation of the Child's Play franchise. So I'm not a giant fan of the Child's Play franchise. I've seen, I think, the first 2, but it is something that I did buy the Blu-ray set at some point. So I may start digging into them and building up to this, especially since it is a sequel proper. So yeah, if you still have cable, Syfy and USA will be showing Chucky starting this Tuesday.
Well, here's the interesting thing. It was actually it's produced by HBO Max, and it's
it's not, folks. Moving to something that's coming out on Hulu this Wednesday, we've got.
Thank God we're back in safe territory.
I know, back in non-cable territory here. Known. We've got Dopesick. So the premise of this is it focuses on the epicenter of America's struggle with opioid addiction across the United States. So this is developed and written by Danny Strong and directed by Barry Levinson and stars Michael Keaton, Peter Sarsgaard, Michael Stolberg, Will Poulter, Rosario Dawson, Caitlin Dever, and many more. And this is based on a book called Dopesick, Dealers, Doctors, and the Drug Company That Addicted America by Beth Macy. So very relevant to the opioid struggles that many people in this country and elsewhere are going through at this time. And I think it's going to dig into how opioids became the massive multi-billion-dollar industry in the United States that they have become. I know for a time, I'm not sure if this is still the case, but some doctors were even being taught that this sort of stuff was non-addictive, which studies have shown for a long time that they are massively addictive. So I'm sure it'll get into kind of where these sorts of studies came from, who did or didn't talk about them. And with this cast around it, this seems like an easy sell if you're interested in the history of this story. So yeah, that's Dopesick. That'll be on Hulu starting this Wednesday.
Yeah, I also want to point out real quick, if it's okay, yeah. Brian. I had seen a great documentary called Oxyana, which was directed by John Joseph McCauley, and that's also a really good one. That's a lot more intimate look, and this was actually Oxyana came out. Let me check here. Came out like a while ago. I want to say like 2007. And it goes into like the effect around I think Tennessee 2013, sorry, not that soon, but 2013. Okay. And this is a very intimate look at one town's and I think it focused on a couple characters and just what that crisis was doing even then. So it's been kind of waging a terrible, it's been an epidemic among a lot of small towns, especially like a bunch of people out of work on disability. So it's just a terrible thing. So this sounds like a little bit of a broader picture, but certainly also a documentary I'd recommend on the subject.
Yeah, no, that's definitely a good shout out. Something else that's coming out this week on Thursday to another collab here, HBO Max and Cartoon Network, which is more known territory for us. We're comfortable here.
That's how you do a collaboration, folks.
No, I think
yes, Cartoon Network has their own section on HBO Max.
You never cross cable streams. That's rule number one.
Yeah. Never cross the streams.
Yeah, now Cartoon Network and Disney and Nickelodeon joint. That's something worth talking about. Well, I have it on good accord. I have a quote from producer.
From Animator.
Animator says
this would be dope.
So we have Aquaman, King of Atlantis, coming to HBO Max and Cartoon Network this Thursday. So the summary of this show: Aquaman finally becomes King of Atlantis, but he has a lot of learning to do. Thankfully, his advisors, Volku, hopefully I'm pronouncing that right.
Volko.
Thank you. Volko, a scholar, and Mira, a water-wielding warrior, are there to give him a hand. So this is produced by James Wan. And for better or for worse, James Wan is the director of the last Aquaman movie. I know this is a contentious one for some people.
How dare you bring it up, Brian?
I know. This show in particular is created by Victor Courtwright and Marley Halpern Grazer, and stars Cooper Andrews, Gillian Jacobs, Thomas Lennon, and Dana Snyder. I'm not huge into the DC animated universe, but I know they've been doing some pretty good things. I really enjoyed, I know you and I both watched, Chris, the last Halloween adaptation that happened. And this is going to be 3 episodes coming to streaming. And because of the short contained length of it, seems like something that I'm more likely to check out than maybe some of the longer running shows that they've done. But yeah, that'll be out on HBO Max and Cartoon Network this Thursday.
Before we move on, Brian, I just want to say this show looks absurd. The way the aesthetic that they've chosen for the animation, I can't tell if this is going to be a show that's meant for children or adults, because it's this very strange, kind of like Adventure Time-esque animation aesthetic. And the characters they move as if they don't have bones, kind of. It's just very different.
Wait, what?
From what we've been getting in traditional DC animation, like the traditional DC animated films.
Yeah, very
and it's ultra
acute
colorful
bone structure
and vibrant. So what'd you say, Chris?
Known for Gumby, but underwater.
Yeah,
pretty much.
It's like known for their strong angular bone structure, and to go to an animation style in which the characters have no bones, bold choice. Bold choice.
I mean, I'm sure it's insinuated that they have bones, but the way in which they're animated makes it seem as if they are so malleable.
Are they like wavy inflatable tube men?
Kind of. Go watch the trailer. You'll understand what I'm talking about.
Is it because underwater, guys?
Is it because they're underwater and there's a waviness to it? Is that the effect?
Maybe that's the thought process behind it. Who's to say? But it's wacky, man. The aesthetic they've gone with is wacky.
Yeah, definitely a new animation style from what they've been accustomed to lately. So that's Aquaman, King of Atlantis. That'll be out this Thursday. All right. Last TV show that's coming out this week on Friday, we've got another version of I Know What You Did Last Summer. So this is based on the 1973 novel of the same name by Lois Duncan, and another one that James Wan as well as Neil H. Moritz are executive producing. This is starring Madison Eisman, Brianna Zhu, Ezekiel Goodman, Ashley Moore, and many others. And the basic plot of this show is teenagers are stalked by a mysterious killer a year after a fatal accident on the night of their graduation. I've actually never seen the original I Know What You Did Last Summer that was made in the 90s, but I have seen Scary Movie, which takes it down. So I know generally the kind of plot points of this movie.
Am I mistaken? I did. It's off screen on the video feed, but isn't the killing weapon like a fish hook, like a fisherman's hook? Am I wrong in this, Chris? Do you remember? I could have.
I haven't seen it. So
I think I've seen it. I've definitely seen it, but I don't remember it. But I could have sworn that the killing weapon is a fish hook, or at least the movie begins with a bloody fish hook. This is not good podcasting. Me like vaguely remembering shit. I'm gonna stop talking. Brian, please. I forgot what I did last summer, so I'm not a good resource.
This is going to be a new take, not a continuation of what's been previously done. So if this sounds at all appealing, if you're into slashers and you're looking for some long-form slasher television, I Know What You Did Last Summer, coming to Prime Video this Friday, might be up your alley.
Everything old is new again.
Yes, it is all reborn
Hollywood's
through
motto.
in the name of content.
Right.
So speaking of things that are reborn.
Oh, yes, it was a fish hook. I gotta put up.
That was excellent timing because I thought Christian was reacting to what your bit.
I know.
It was a great transition. I'm so upset that Christian ruined the transition.
It's okay.
Sorry.
Fish hook, confirmed.
Hold on, I'm gonna put this on. I have to put this on screen. I can't let this go. I've got to put this on screen. You guys won't see it. I'll have to send you a picture. But I Google searched the image, and this is what I found. I can't even. You both can't see it. This is terrible podcasting.
It's hilarious.
Oh, that is absolutely hysterical.
What a hilarious photo.
I have to
Christian is
text
showing us.
so we could get. We have to get a good reaction. Oh my god, I can't even because it's the best. It was like my memory couldn't have been. It couldn't have been that stupid. That it was like a fisherman in a hook. Like that sounds really dumb. Like that worked, and this is what I saw.
Are you texting it?
I don't know. Is he? We're relying on
on iMessage.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
That's not good.
That's like a meat hook. It's a meat hook.
Yeah, that's why I was doing the
I
thing.
honestly think it might be the top half of a clothes hanger.
Yeah, anyway. I was really glad. I just had to be like, am I high? What's going? Like, what was my memory of this? And it was totally.
That just seems ridiculous.
It was definitely Gordon Fisherman murder. So, it's good to know. Anyway, Brian.
Right, so
Brian.
luckily, we confirmed that.
Brian, speaking of things being reborn,
Right back there, like nothing happened. We have got Halloween Kills coming out this Friday to theaters as well as Peacock. We've talked a bit about this in the past. We covered the Halloween 2018, which was a direct sequel to John Carpenter's original Halloween that erased all of the subsequent films that had come out in terms of canon. This is directed by David Gordon Green, who co-wrote the film with Danny McBride and Scott Teems, and stars Jamie Lee Curtis and Nick Castle, reprising their roles as Laurie Strode and Michael Myers, as well as James Jude Courtney, Judy Greer, Andy Matichak, and Will Patton, who are also coming back. This is something that I'm going to be talking about very shortly, so I won't say too much about it, but the basic plot, it begins precisely where the previous film left off and sees Strode and her family continuing to fend off Myers, this time with the help of the Haddonfield community. So Michael is back. He is still alive. Minor spoilers from the end of the first movie. They do pseudo explain it, but yeah, if you enjoyed the first take on this movie and are a fan of the Halloween franchise, this is going to be an obvious one for you to see, especially during the spooky season. So Halloween Kills is going to be out this Friday.
Now, Brian, you've seen this, and obviously for audio feed listeners, they'll be able to listen to your take on it in our quick hits. Where do you put this among the latest Halloween films? We've got 3 of them now in the reboot series, the continuation. Where do you rank this? Just real quick take.
So in terms of between 2018 and this one, or
No,
versus the original?
There's 3 of them, right?
There's
No,
going
this
to
is
be
only
a
the
third.
this is the second one.
David Gordon Green.
Which we've seen.
No, we've seen the first one, Halloween. This
Those
is
weren't
the second
2
in
separate
the sequel.
movies? Jamie Lee
They're both.
Curtis locking down the house. That's the one that we watched.
Yes,
Correct.
that's the 2018 one, which is a direct sequel to the Carpenter original movie.
There wasn't
Correct.
2 of those movies.
No,
This is
just
the second one, but it is very much a direct continuation of
It's the quantum of solace of the Halloween franchise.
But he is doing a trilogy.
All right, let's do this take again where I don't look like a complete dumbass. Brian, in ranking all the Halloween movies, You've seen this new one. Where do you stack it?
So it's interesting because I never saw the sequels from the original Carpenter movie, but this movie very much pulls from a lot of stuff that the sequels was doing. So it gets into some supernatural stuff and actually uses it to talk about society in an interesting way and kind of make Michael Myers, or I should just say the villain, more abstract in a sense that I think works. There's also a lot of references to other movies here that I wasn't getting from some of the stuff that's in canon that David Gordon Green is winking and nodding at. The kill counts here are way up and ridiculously fun. So in terms of scoring it, I would say it's the first Halloween 2018 is very much trying to ape the feel and the vibe of the Carpenter, the original Carpenter one. This one feels like it's trying to do something different. And it very much is a different kind of more outlandish, bigger, and trying to say something. It's more of a message movie in a way that the first one wasn't at all. So I'm kind of spoiling some of my
no, of course. Sorry
definitely
to get you ahead
worth seeing. And if you're a fan of Michael Myers, you will have a lot of fun with this movie.
Sounds fun. Thank you. And
so that's Halloween Kills. That'll be out this Friday. And lastly, we've got the latest from Ridley Scott, which this man out here working. We talked about Clint Eastwood recently. Clint Eastwood, as well as Ridley Scott, are just old men out here putting in work, putting out movies every year, every other year, sometimes multiple movies in a year with Ridley Scott. But we've got The Last Duel. So the plot of this movie, a woman claims she's been raped by her husband's best friend. But when no one believes her accusation, her husband challenges the friend to a duel, the last legally sanctioned duel in the country's history. So this is based on a book of the same name by Eric Yager and is written by Nicole Holofcener, as well as Ben Affleck and Matt Damon teaming up again, which is pretty exciting for fans of Good Will Hunting, obviously. And this stars Matt Damon, Adam Driver, Jodie Comer, and Ben Affleck himself. Ridley Scott movies generally going to be worthwhile seeing. The trailer for this movie hasn't really sold me the couple times I've seen it, but because it's Ridley Scott, because of the writers and the cast, this is something that I'm definitely going to be seeing. And this will be out in theaters this Friday, The Last Duel.
It's interesting. I wonder when this was made, because Ridley Scott also has House of Gucci coming out soon, which also stars Adam Driver. So they worked back to back.
I think they were working simultaneously. I think while he was finishing one, he was in production, like pre-production for another. A very busy man. Yeah. Honestly, super impressive. Yeah. House of Gucci is one that I'm actually more excited for.
Oh, I'm super excited for that
as well. Adam Driver doing big things with
Jared Leto as well. Totally inconspicuous in that film.
Oh, yeah. Transformative. So, yeah, that's it for the news this week, guys.
Brian, Wacky News Corner, as per usual. So good to have you back. Welcome back. Doing it like a pro. So that's going to do it for this section of the weekly upload, and we're going to say goodbye to our YouTube watchers. Gentlemen, where can people find more of your work on the internet?
Loyal listeners and viewers, you can find me on Twitter at Chris Conkling, talking about all things nerdy, comic books, movies, television, video games, collectibles. If it's nerdy, I'm talking about it.
And you can find me on Twitter at True Pop-O-Holics for all the dad jokes your heart desires.
If it's daddy, he's joking about it. And you can find my band at Midnight Satire. AR now streaming, and we're going to announce it right here. Positive NDA dropping on Wednesday, which is the next single from Midnight Satire. So check it out. Let me know what you think.
Very cool.
Very cool things happening. And you can find more Pop-O-Holics in general by emailing us at popaholicscast@gmail.com. Let us know what you think of the show. Things that you want to cover, questions, comments, concerns, recommendations for guests, all that stuff. Please email us. We read every single email that we receive. You can also follow the link tree in either the show notes or the YouTube description. It'll show you to all our social medias. We do a poll on Twitter. We also, engage the community there, so please join us over there. Subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts. Rate us 5 stars. We'll read your 5-star review at the end of the episodes of our weekly uploads. So do that. And with that, we're saying bye to the YouTube watchers. Bye!